Good freaking morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, my people. What is going on? Oh, I got to be honest with everybody this morning. Oh, I needed a little extra caffeine. Needed a little extra coffee. A lot of driving these days. What's going on, everybody? Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Got a good show lined up today. Got a guest today as well. We got a good game coming up tonight. Tip off at midnight. Post-game show at 4 a.m. Looking forward to that. You guys will hear me bitching and complaining about that throughout the show. It's really just a half-hour difference. I don't know why I make such a big deal about it. Lakers and the Timberwolves, obviously, tonight. Looking forward to hanging out with you guys for a full day today. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for being a part of the show. Let me give everyone a quick rundown what we're going to do today for the show, and then we'll look at some of the comments. We'll get things started. Got a guest coming on at 8:30, so I'm going to try to kind of get through the beginning portion of the show a little bit faster because I'm going to have less time to talk, which is probably good for the channel and good for the show as well. I got to give a couple quick reminders to everybody here. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate that. If you're here on YouTube, welcome. If you're here on Facebook, thank you for being here. If you're here on X, great to have you. Got a couple of platforms that we've been using over the last week or so, not just mine on YouTube, but also AM 570, who's part of the iHeartRadio network, of course, in Los Angeles. That great radio station has supporting the channel and some of the content that I'm putting out there. So however you're here, I appreciate it. We'd greatly appreciate you subscribing to the channel. That'd be phenomenal for our YouTube. Trying to close in on 35,000 subscribers. Okay. I got a ton of things that I want to get to in regards to the rundown today. So let's do that. Take a sip of our coffee. Today, it's diesel fuel. I mean, when I say this is just black coffee and nothing else to it, that's all. Today, it's just we gotta make sure that we're fueled up properly here. All right, the Minnesota Timberwolves are in town, taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. Another one of these big games. What is this now? 3 of the last 4 games for the Lakers. They're playing real playoff teams. Real playoff teams. Game they played against the Denver Nuggets, obviously. That's a real playoff team. Lakers lost that one. They took on the Knicks and kind of dominated New York. I didn't know that was possible, but dominated the Knicks on Sunday. And of course, you had the game against the Pacers, which I don't think anybody's paying too close attention to. And then tonight you go up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So we'll talk about the significance of this game tonight. I was looking at some of Austin Reaves' stats. It's kind of an interesting one with Austin Reaves, at least for me. Maybe not everybody feels this way, but for me specifically, I look at a couple different angles with Austin Reaves. I look at how bad they need him. I look at him finally being aggressive and having a much better performance against the Knicks when he drops 25. I look at him needing to kind of build some of this momentum and not just have one good game here or there, because he hasn't played well. I don't think he's played well since he came back from his injury. And I do think that is a huge effect on the Lakers. And then I went back and took a look at what were some of his playoff stats against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And typically a game like this against Minnesota, I don't think Austin Reaves excels in games like this, depending on who they put on him on the defensive side, but they need him. So I think it is a big test for Austin Reaves. And I think Lakers got to have one of his better performances, or it's going to be a problem. LeBron listed as questionable, so we'll see if he's able to play. I think there's still some meat left on the bones. I think that chatter that we were having yesterday about the 9-2 record without LeBron, I want to go back into that a little bit. There was a couple of comments from yesterday's show I'll take a look at, and I'm sure you guys obviously will have your own thoughts, everybody that's on the show today. Paul Pierce said that Lakers are better off without LeBron. Now, however you want to take that from Paul Pierce, first off, I think he's trying to make some valid points, but I think there's also Paul Pierce who doesn't exactly always have the nicest things to say about LeBron James, probably because he's jealous of LeBron James, if I'm being honest with you. Alan Horton, who does the play-by-play for the Minnesota Timberwolves, is going to join the show. He's been on the show a couple of times. I think came on early in the season. Lakers played Minnesota already twice this year, but it was really, really early in the season. So we haven't really seen anything since then. Kind of randomly here, Nikola Jokic talked about staying in Denver. And I don't know if the question was brought up in regards specifically to the Lakers, but he had a quote that I think will, at least for now, tell a lot of people that if you want to pair up Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic, that's probably not happening. For a lot of people that always put up videos and say, look, these guys are buddies. They're best friends. They're going to play they're going to have championships together in the Lakers. Probably not going to happen, but we'll see what happens there. Dillon Brooks was just roasting 40% of the NBA. Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I don't know where you guys are on Dillon Brooks. I think I'm a fan of Dillon Brooks. I like his game. I like his style. I like his chippiness. This guy was doing a podcast, and there was top 50 teams, top 50 players in the NBA, and he's listed at 48, and they started naming the players that are listed higher than him or lower than him, however you want to look at it. He's like, Josh Giddey. He's like, no. Austin Reaves, foul baiter. I mean, just started going into every one of these players. I don't know. Dillon Brooks is kind of growing on me. I got to be honest with everybody. I wish he was a Laker if I'm being real there. Dillon Brooks will. I won't play it because typically if I play a podcast, I probably can't monetize the episode. But I will read some of the quotes. Got some NBA news. SGA, ridiculous yesterday. They beat the Denver Nuggets. He hits a couple daggers, and they eventually beat Denver, which is good for the Lakers, by the way. We'll get into that as well, and we'll call it a day. So thank you all for being here. Let's take a look at a couple of the comments here. I rock with Brooks. He's annoying to play against, but damn, that boy, a good-ish talker. Yeah, I don't disagree with that one. Dillon is I'm actually a little surprised here. I guess there's a bigger fan base of Dillon Brooks people than I thought. The problem with Dillon Brooks, I don't think he knows when to run his mouth. Like, I think he makes his life that much more difficult. I think back that Grizzlies series against the Lakers where he's talking crap to LeBron. I'm like, it's not working. Just, go to plan B. All right, let's get a couple more in here. Let's see what guy. Let's get it. These late tip-offs are nuts. Imagine going to a game and getting back at midnight on a work night. Come on now. Imagine being on the East Coast and you're just trying to watch, one of your squads play, and they're tipping off at 11. And you're up until 2 a.m.? Yeah, no thank you. That ain't happening. That ain't happening. Okay, let's get the show started. Let me squeeze in one more here. Rui stepping up and raising his stock combined with the AR comeback should convince the Bucks ownership this is the trade package they need. Let me just say this. I don't think there was any ownership from the Milwaukee Bucks that was watching the game on Sunday afternoon, Lakers and the Knicks, that saw Rui hit a couple of threes, Reaves drop 25, and say, yep, we're now ready to change. We're now ready to trade our franchise player. I don't think that's the package that's going to get it done. Let's put it that way. Unless Giannis wants to become a Los Angeles Laker. I actually saw something Dave McMenamin put out yesterday on that. Eric, if you don't mind, we'll get into that a little bit later, but I forgot to send that to you. All right, let's get the show started. Again, appreciate you guys being here, and please subscribe to the channel. So Lakers and the Timberwolves going at it tonight. I'm going to play out a couple scenarios here. Let me say this first. Minnesota, 40-24 on the season. They're third in the Western Conference. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. They're 8-2 in their last 8-2 in their last 10. They had a weird game. They went up against the Orlando Magic over the weekend and got blown out at home. So it kind of falls into the same category as a lot of these other teams in the Western Conference around the Lakers. Lakers will, win some games. They'll lose some games. You're kind of scratching your head. Denver, that's happened to as well. Houston, that's definitely happened to. They're going the wrong direction. And Minnesota, they're playing good ball, but they had this just random loss to the Orlando Magic, whatever we want to make of it. Lakers right now, since they've already played the Minnesota Timberwolves twice this year and won both of those games, both really early in the season, they own the tiebreaker. And I'm just explaining that because I just want to kind of set up a little bit of, what we got going on tonight. Now, what both of these teams were in October obviously means nothing, or November, whenever those two games were. So I wouldn't pay any attention to the Lakers who played Minnesota game 2 of the regular season. They played him game 5 of the regular season. One of those games, no LeBron, no Luka, no Anthony Edwards. So don't pay any attention to what the history is between these two teams, unless you want to go back to the playoffs. I mean, in the playoffs, I can actually look back at that and go from there. I think the playoffs do tell somewhat of a story here between the two franchises. I want to play out if the Lakers win tonight. I want to play out if the Lakers lose tonight. I just want to play out both because I think everybody who watches the Lakers right now, there's always an overreaction. Probably because it's the Lakers. There's always an overreaction to the Lakers. But let's just kind of focus here for a quick second on why there's an not why there's an overreaction of either scenario playing out, what it would probably mean for the Lakers. Let me give you a good example. Let's say the Lakers lost tonight against Minnesota. Competitive game, and Minnesota just wins the game. There's obviously multiple ways that you can lose a game, and they could lose in a number of different ways. But if I just played out the scenario, that Lakers lost against Minnesota and it's a close game, it's a close battle, all right, it's not a good thing, but in a sense, you could kind of in a way live with it and kind of maybe convince yourself that, all right, that's 3 matchups against 3 potential playoff teams where the Lakers are playing a lot better. Denver, they didn't get blown out. I know Denver was missing a lot of their guys. Okay, that's one scenario that plays out with Minnesota. They lose by 8-10 points at home. That's a different conversation. Now, all of a sudden, the win against the Knicks doesn't really matter. Now you're just basically saying it's the same old Lakers. Oh, the Knicks just shot really bad. Lakers had nothing to do with it, even though I disagree with that. I think the Lakers were phenomenal on the defensive side of the ball. If the Lakers lost tonight, it feels like it takes away a lot of the stock that the Lakers built with the win on Sunday afternoon against the Knicks. The Lakers win tonight, however they won, whether they won by 1 point or they won by 12. Of course, the more that you win, the more convincing the win is. That's a little bit tells a story of what they did against the Knicks. But if they won tonight, the story starts changing a little bit. And I don't think you could change a story with 1 win. Really with 2 or 3 wins, even if their team's above 500. But at least the storyline starts changing. Now, instead of saying, yeah, it doesn't matter because every time the Lakers win, it's only against a team below 500. If they could find a way to beat Minnesota tonight, I think the narrative just changes just a little bit more. Doesn't mean the Lakers are going to go compete in the Western Conference Finals. Doesn't mean they got a better team than San Antonio or the Oklahoma City Thunder. Of course, it doesn't mean any of that stuff. But if they win tonight, you could back up what you said about the Lakers after the Knicks. You could start to have a conversation and say, okay, this is kind of interesting. They've beat a couple teams now above 500. This is a team they could definitely face in the playoffs. We'll see what happens. How much closer does this change the Lakers as far as the standings go? I get it. A lot of people don't really want to pay attention too close to the standings because Lakers were a 3rd seed. They were a 3 seed last year, and they were out in 5 games. So how much is the seeding going to change everything in regards to the Lakers, where they are, and what that would determine in the postseason? Okay, so those are scenarios right there that whether they win or whether they lose. What I kind of find really interesting in tonight's game is this isn't just any team. This is also the team that took you out in the playoffs. This is also the team that a lot of people have looked at and said, hey, if there's maybe a dark horse in the Western Conference, Denver's got to be healthy. But I feel like Minnesota's name comes up a lot. Maybe they could do some damage. I'll tell you this, 2 years in a row, Minnesota's made the Western Conference Finals. Both years, I'm like, they got no shot at making the Western Conference Finals. I would assume that this year is the same exact story. They're not going to make the Western Conference Finals, but they've kind of surprised everybody over these last couple of seasons. So, what it means tonight, I think it's a lot to do with the narrative. It's a lot to do with if the Lakers, hypothetically, as I sit here, if they are able to get a win, I think it does change a little bit more of a story. If they're not able to get the win, I think we go back to it's the same old Lakers. All right, I got to do one thing here. All right, making sure we're all set there. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the comments, and I want to go into Austin Reaves. Reaves is a perfect example for this game tonight. Perfect. Reaves is perfect because he's a player that got kind of dragged through the mud after the Lakers lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Did not have the playoff performance he was looking for. A lot of eyes on Austin Reaves. He's a perfect player to watch in this game, especially because that playoff series that the Lakers had against Minnesota and how he struggled and just had one good game. And now everybody, is obviously hoping he can build some momentum off of it. So that's going to be a critical piece of it as well. I want to look at some of the comments here and go from there. All right, let's see what we got here. Win or lose, it changes nothing. Lakers aren't contenders. Yeah, I don't think that's the chat. How do you define a contender? Somebody that's got a legitimate chance of competing for an NBA championship. I don't think there's anybody out there that believes that. But if you want to say contender, then that means Minnesota's not a contender. It means Houston's not a contender. It means Lakers are not a contender. It means what would you say in the Eastern Conference? Does it mean the Cavs are not a contender? Does it mean the East is a little bit tougher to judge? Contender basically means, and I think this one says here, only top 3 ever win a championship. Basically what you're saying is Knicks, Boston, Detroit, OKC, Denver, and San Antonio. I don't fully disagree with that. But the different narrative for the Lakers is not just, are you a contender? Because I think most people would agree, they're not contenders. But if the conversation is, can the Lakers make any noise in the playoffs? Can they win a round? Can they start beating some teams over 500? Can they be a little bit of threat in the postseason? I think that's what these games are. So I do think if the Lakers won tonight, I think the conversation, the narrative starts changing a little bit with the Lakers. Doesn't make them a top 3 team in the West. Doesn't make them a contender. But I think it changes a little bit. So that's how I would describe that. I don't think you're wrong in saying that they're not a contender. I think there is a little bit of I don't think a lot of people are considering the Lakers a contender. So I don't disagree with that. Scouting report, attack Reaves. Again, Austin here in a second, how big this game is for him. Laker fans are fully split between Luka or LeBron camps. I think those that are talking about, LeBron's, I think there are people that kind of want to talk about that protect LeBron. It's typically got to do with his legacy. And I feel like they're trying to protect his legacy. You don't have to protect LeBron's legacy. He's good. If somebody doesn't appreciate or think LeBron's one of the greatest players to ever play the game, top 3, somewhere around there, then you're just hating on LeBron, and I can't take your opinion objectively. I don't think Laker fans are very split in this. I don't think there's a Luka versus LeBron camp. I think there's a build around Luka camp. And maybe you have a couple of people on the outside that are saying, bring LeBron back for his 24th season. But I don't think there's too many. I don't. That's my kind of feel for it, my gauge for it. That's a topic in itself. Let's get another one here. Why would anyone think the Lakers are good when one of your best players is 41 and your 2 big pickups last offseason were 2 guys who were paid millions to get lost, as in buyouts with Portland and I think Memphis, Smart and Ayton? Guys, I think we got to have, there's different definitions here. I think you can have a conversation about the Lakers without saying they're contenders to win a championship. Because my perspective on the Lakers is this is a gap year before they're supposed to be very, very active in the summer. But they also have really good players, one of the top 5 players in Luka Doncic, and can be a headache in the playoffs, or they could be eliminated in 5 games again, like they were against Minnesota. Kind of a weird team to cover, if I'm being honest with you this year. This year, you kind of know what the result is going to be, but obviously it comes with the territory. And I get how some people just kind of want to jump ahead. I'm trying to just focus on tonight's game because I think this is a fun game to watch. I think it's going to be an exciting matchup, and I'm looking forward to it. Why would I worry about the offseason when it's March 10th? I think the offseason is a very, very interesting conversation with the Lakers. I don't know if it comes today. Okay, let me keep jumping here because I think this big test for Reaves thing is really where I want to take this conversation. So Austin Reaves' playoff stats last year. There was a comment here earlier that said attack Reaves. I don't disagree with that. You got to go right at Austin Reaves. Minnesota made life a living hell for Austin Reaves the last postseason. And I was saying this when I was going through when I was talking about, a few of my angles here on Austin Reaves coming into tonight's game. I don't know if you guys have a lot of eyes on Austin Reaves, but I do. And I'm paying close attention to Austin Reaves because I just think he's such a critical piece, and I don't really know what I'm going to get from him. Would you be surprised if you got another 16 points from Austin Reaves, 3.5 points, or 3 rebounds and 3 assists? I wouldn't be surprised. I've seen Austin Reaves do that a lot over the course of this last month or so. Would you be surprised if Austin Reaves dropped 28? Yeah, I'd be a little bit surprised. Maybe he's somewhere in the middle there, 22 points, somewhere around there, especially if LeBron's not there and he's not playing. Obviously, it's going to be critical for Austin Reaves to have one of those games. Let me give you his playoff stats last year versus Minnesota. 16 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 45% from the field, 38% from the three-point line. And everybody talked about how Austin Reaves was a disappointment last year in the postseason. Everybody spent a lot of time. One of the biggest storylines coming out of last year's playoffs was, you want to pay this guy how much? This is supposed to be one of your franchise players with Luka Doncic, which I still think a lot of those conversations are there unless Austin Reaves helps change some of that narrative. Now, on Sunday, his performance was the first time in a while that you felt like, hey, this is a much closer version to Austin Reaves than people thought we were going to have. Seeing what he was during the beginning of the season to what he was towards, obviously at this stage of the year, it's 2 completely different players. One was an all-star. This one is a role player. And how he finishes the rest of this season will tell a lot about what Austin Reaves' perception is going to be, how the Lakers view him. If other teams want to, spend 40, 45 million a year on him, make him an offer. So these games for Austin Reaves are critical, but, most importantly, where they're most important or where they're most critical is the fact that the Lakers are desperate to have good Austin Reaves games moving forward. I'm with you. Guys like Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, if he switched up on one of these guys, they're going to go right after him, as they should. And the question is going to be, are you going to get the version of Austin Reaves that was closer to that version that you saw against the Knicks, or are you going to get the Austin Reaves that you've seen for about a month? So I think his game is critical tonight. And maybe, listen, I don't know. I know there's an overreaction to this, but maybe what it comes down to is whether LeBron plays or not. That will determine just how aggressive he is. Because I've seen plenty of games with Austin Reaves when he's out there on the floor where all of a sudden he's not the same player. I've seen plenty of games where Austin Reaves is super aggressive early on, or is aggressive when one of those guys are out. This last game, it being LeBron. And then I see plenty of times where I'm like, why is AR sitting in the corner? What a waste of talent. So I think he's so big tonight, and I'm very, very curious if Austin Reaves kind of steps up. And obviously the LeBron piece of this might have a lot to do with it. We'll have to wait and see. By the way, speaking of LeBron, so he is listed as questionable. So saw this yesterday. They send out that I've told you guys this before. They send out, as everybody knows, they sent out that injury report. So he's listed as questionable. JJ said yesterday LeBron didn't practice today. He remains day to day. I'm reading this off of Mike Trudell. Said the team used practice today, cleaned up a few things, pick and roll coverages, off ball screening were two areas of emphasis. But obviously on the LeBron piece, remains day to day. If he didn't practice yesterday, that part is interesting. The fact that he didn't play with the Knicks. One of the big conversations coming out yesterday, a lot of people were talking about, right? A lot of people were hitting on this yesterday, and specifically, I spent a lot of time on it as well. That 9-2 record without LeBron James when Luka and AR play together. So obviously that was a big part of the conversation. Give me one. Dominated by allergies here. Dominated by allergies. So the 9-2 record that the Lakers have without LeBron in the lineup, that stirred up a whole different conversation. And then, a lot of people wanted to make the claim that, well, they're better off without LeBron. I don't think they're better off without LeBron. I think there's been some conversations out there, and I think if you want to say, and I've heard some people make this argument as well, if you want to say that, hey, they're better off with AR as a second option over LeBron, okay, I'm interested in that conversation. I still think, based off of the type of balance that the Lakers are looking for, that they do need. They probably be better off with Austin Reaves coming off the bench, but I don't think I'm going to win that argument. And it doesn't sound like that's obviously something that the Lakers are going to do anyway. So I don't think it's worth the conversation. But that's been a big topic and a big conversation. If LeBron doesn't play tonight and then all of a sudden AR and Luka are cooking again and they find a way to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, there's going to be even more conversation that goes towards, look, you can't have LeBron here. If you have LeBron, he's affecting this, he's affecting that. If LeBron does play tonight and they do win, then that, shuts up that conversation. Or if he does play and they lose, then it makes it even, obviously it makes it a little bit louder. That's kind of an interesting twist to the storyline in tonight's game, specifically for those reasons. Okay, I want to look at some of the comments, and but like I said, he's listed as questionable, so we'll see if LeBron is able to go tonight or not. Let's give a couple shout outs here. I gotta give a quick shout out here to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Injury attorneys, I'll kind of emphasize this because I think it's important to point out. I hope you never need an injury attorney. I hope you never need Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. If you do, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Very simple. Just go to that website, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. If you go to that website, get a free consultation 24/7. They could help anybody in the state of California. I've always kind of emphasized that. I know we got a lot of our audience in Southern California, but there's Laker fans everywhere. If you're in the state of California, they can help you. If you go to that website as well, just something to keep in mind, they'll have one of their representatives reach out. Maybe it's not a perfect fit, but I know they'll point you in the right direction. wallacewins.com/Sliwa, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments here before we get to Alan Horton. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we have here. Ant-Man and company will be hunting Reaves tonight. Yes, they will. AR needs to play with confidence and huevos and don't back down. Yeah, it's weird kind of mentally for him how his game has changed a little bit. There was a time earlier in the year where he could do no wrong and he looked so loose and he looked like he was thinking. There was zero part of his game where he was thinking or he was worried about this or worried about that. And then once Luka and LeBron kind of came back and they're both playing, he went back to this, all right, I'm going to be a role player. I'm going to get the hell out of the way. The Lakers are not better off with Austin Reaves getting out of the way. They're not better off with Austin Reaves being less of having less of a presence with the Lakers. So I'm with you on that. There is a piece of his game that seems, I don't know, sometimes either intimidated or he's too polite. I mentioned this to you guys. I went to the game on Sunday, and that was my question to JJ Redick. Is he too unselfish? Like, I get Austin Reaves. I mean, I don't question, is Austin Reaves, I don't question, does he want to win? Is he team first? I don't question any of that stuff. Like, everybody knows that Austin Reaves is certainly the type of player that is a team first type of guy. I just don't think it helps the Lakers when he's not as aggressive. All right, let's get a couple more here. Ayton will be needed tonight if he's willing to participate. Yeah, it's a big if, you know. It's up to DeAndre Ayton. He doesn't have to show up every night. I mean, take my podcast. Does it look like I give 100% effort every night? Yeah, sometimes I show up 60% of the time. 60%. All right, we got our guests ready to go, so I want to get ready to throw on Alan Horton. So you guys have heard Alan Horton before on here. Does play-by-play for the Minnesota Timberwolves, so very happy to have him on helping us preview this game. Horton, what's going on, brother? I know you don't do one of these. You give 60% effort. You're always kind of all in. Sometimes I might give you 75%.
If you're going to do something, do it 100%, Alan. We've always talked about this. This is like our philosophy in life. This is where we approach our personal lives, our business lives. You know, you got to get after it. You got to enjoy it.
Can you go talk to Ayton?
I'm a little busy today, so I'm probably not going to get around to talking to DeAndre and solve his problems. We got enough. I've got enough issues just getting ready for the radio broadcast tonight, a little TV tomorrow against the Clippers. So
there you go.
I got enough to worry about and keep our team under control. I mean,
the
Wolves are really kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team. They have some good stretches for like a week and a half, and then they'll have this one loss, which is just baffling. It's not baffling to lose to a team like Orlando, but it's baffling to get blown out by them. 2 weeks ago, it was Philadelphia they got blown out by. Like, the Wolves are, when they're at their best, they're a really good team. They've beaten OKC twice. They've beaten San Antonio. They have that potential, but they don't always play up to that level. They'll have stretches, then they'll drop off, and then they'll have a stretch, and then another drop off.
You know, it's funny you say that because every time I look at the scores in the NBA, and I'm looking at the Western Conference, and, you know, kind of trying to see, all right, Lakers got to win. Will they gain ground in the West or will they not? And we know 3 through 6, take Phoenix maybe out of the mix here. I know they're sitting in the 7th spot. Every time I look, I get more confused by what you just said about Minnesota. I think you could say the same thing about Houston. You could say the same thing about Denver. I think you could have that conversation about the Lakers as well. The only difference is what you said about the teams they've beat. The Lakers do not have that resume. I mean, their last win against the Knicks was, I'm not kidding, and I know this is going to sound crazy. I don't think they've had a signature win like that. You got to go back to maybe November. Every team they've beat primarily is a team that's well below 500 or hovering around 500, something along those lines. At least you could tell with Minnesota, when they are at their best, they can, you know, compete with the elite. Lakers haven't really shown that on a consistent basis. And I think these 3 through 6 is, you know, there are times where I'm looking, I'm like, what is Houston? I was looking at the scoreboard on Saturday, and I'm like, Minnesota just lost by how much against Orlando at home? So the West is very confusing between those teams.
It is. There's a lot of inconsistency, and that it was shocking to see Houston go into San Antonio and give up, 145 points. I mean, that's an astounding number. Like, I know San Antonio's good. I know they can be dominant. We all know about Wemby, but that game wasn't competitive. I think there is going to be a lot of jostling between those 3 and 6, and if Phoenix gets into it, then 3 and 7 spots. And yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see the way it shapes out. I think when I look at the Lakers, I look at their really hot start to the season, and kind of riding that, jumping out to a 10 games over 500 and kind of, riding that for most of the season. And then what you're talking about, not having signature wins along the way, it's a dangerous way to go because, the 82 game season, there's lots of ways to kind of get yourself to the finish line. And the Lakers will get to themselves to the finish line and they'll have a pretty good record. But you're right. You don't have those signature wins. It doesn't bode well for postseason play, which is kind of what the Lakers ran into last year when they faced the Timberwolves in the first round.
Yeah, that's why I think there's always going to be hesitation for the Lakers just because you got to beat good teams. And I think this is why this is such a good test for the Lakers tonight, because Minnesota does fall into that, hey, you can face them in the first round again. You finally got a quality win against the Knicks on Sunday, which they did. Lakers look good. They were phenomenal on the defensive side. I don't know how much of that game you got to watch, if any, but nationally televised game. I was thinking about it a couple weeks ago. They had a similar scenario where they played Boston.
Mhm.
And this was right after the All-Star break, nationally televised, and the Celtics just embarrassed them. It's a 20-point plus loss. And I don't think a lot of people thought the Lakers would do what they did against the Knicks, which builds a little bit momentum. And then you get this matchup against Minnesota. I'll ask you, and I think you could help educate some of the Laker fans on here. This season, obviously it's not exactly the same roster. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I thought was really nice for you guys last year, specifically on the defensive side. Obviously, he's not there. But when Minnesota's at their best, what's it look like? When Minnesota struggles, what's it look like? Just can you play out, as we watch this game tonight, what is it that we're gonna be able to kind of see early on, whether we have the best version of Minnesota or a version that's struggling?
Yeah, I think I would typify it this way. When things go sideways for the Wolves, it's a very unbalanced box score. It's a lot of Anthony Edwards and a lot of Julius Randle, and maybe too much, where there's not kind of that balance between the rest of the guys on the roster. When they're at their best, they've got 6 or 7 guys in double figures. And usually it's Ant and Julius leading the way. They're the 2 best players for the Wolves. So they're going to lead the way, but there's that balance. And it's funny, the other night against Orlando, Ant got off to this great first quarter start, and it kind of took everybody else out of their rhythm, and nobody else kind of got going. And so there's always sort of that push and pull of finding that balance between, that's what makes the star players great too. Ant could come out every night and take every shot and finish, he could average 35, 40 points a game. He would be, but that's not the recipe for success, right? You've got to have your teammates. You got to build their trust. You got to get them shots. You got to get them touches, all those kind of things. And so Chris Finch always says when isolation is the Wolves' quicksand. If they go to it too much, it just bogs down the entire offense. There's no ball movement. There's no player movement. There's none of that 0.5 mentality of either pass it, drive it, or shoot it. And that's always a balance because Ant and Julius thrive in the isolation game. And by isolation, too, Julius Randle's great at this. It's not just him going one-on-one to score. It's him backing down a defender, having the defense react. And Julius is a very willing passer. He's one of the best assist guys in the NBA setting up threes. He just has an amazing ability to suck in the defense, kick out, and the Wolves knock down threes, especially on corner threes, the highest value shot basically there is. So I think when the Wolves are at their best, everybody's involved. Multiple people are scoring. Dante DiVincenzo's hitting threes. Jaden McDaniels getting you 10 to 15 points. Guys off the bench are contributing. You're getting a good Naz Reid game, a good Ayo Dosunmu game. That's when the Wolves are at their best.
So funny when you say that, because I think there's a lot of similarities. Maybe not with the Lakers specifically, but there are. If I'm let's give Minnesota example tonight. They take on the Lakers. Luka can have 20 in the first quarter. Doesn't mean Lakers are up 10.
Right.
And Luka's got the ability. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the guy could also get 12 dimes and 12 rebounds. I mean, he had 40, 12, and 12. And this is just another day for Luka Doncic. But before you came on, I was talking about how if Austin Reaves is not productive for the Lakers tonight, I don't know how they win. If you don't have some of these other players that are alongside Luka, and it's funny for Minnesota because there is the Naz Reids and there is Dante DiVincenzo and there is other guys that if you could just tell if those guys all feel good and they got it going, well, how are you going to beat Minnesota? If you're the Lakers, I'm not saying if you're OKC or San Antonio, they can go up against anybody, but I feel like the Lakers, when they're at their worst, it's your turn. No, your turn. It's like LeBron's got the ball and then Luka's got the ball, but there is no movement and there is no, just the game of basketball can be really beautiful or it could be very predictable. And ISO ball, very often, you see that. And if I'm watching the Lakers and the Knicks on Sunday and it's Jalen Brunson dribbling the ball for 17 seconds of the shot clock, I'm like, this is a good possession for the Lakers, right? As long as that ball's not moving and there's other threats out there, if it sounds like, a lot of teams that have star players, Anthony Edwards is a star, Jalen's a star, Luka's a star, that they all have a similar, when things aren't going well, they all have kind of the similar issue the ball just sticks in your star's hand?
It's because it's their default nature. And I've talked to Chris Finch about this because I've asked him, a bunch of weeks ago before the All-Star break, the Wolves were, because of a scheduling conflict, had 4 games in 5 nights, and they're hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we were somewhere down south in Texas or New Orleans or something the night before. So a long trip back. And you're thinking, man, this has got schedule loss written all over it. But the Wolves kind of rallied to those kind of situations this year, and especially against a good team. They get up for Oklahoma City. They got gentlemanly swept in the postseason in the Western Conference Finals by OKC last year. So there's some motivation there. But they played one of their best games from the opening tip. There was an intensity to the way they played. There was a ball movement, player move. Everything just flowed, right? Exactly what you're talking about. And you come out of that game going, man, everybody should now realize that if we just do that, if we just play that way, why can't we just play that? The very next game, all that's gone. And, Ant's in ISO, and so is Julius, and we look fractured. And you're just like, wait, what just happened? Why can't you guys see all the good things you did against Oklahoma City? That's the recipe for winning in this league. That's how it's done, how you beat the best team in the league. And yet, oftentimes guys default back to who they are, which I mean, how you came up, how you were raised, how you played the game of basketball. And for a lot of these guys, and there are 1 or 2 on almost every team, right? Sure. I mean, you're right. Luka could dominate the game and take every shot. Ant could do the same thing.
Of course.
But that's kind of what they default to, especially when things go sideways a little bit. They feel like I feel like I have to take over, or our best option is for me to shoot the ball all the time. And that's kind of a vicious cycle. That's that drain going down. And this game is a fascinating psychological, I think, study on how guys work together. And then you can see teams like, I thought Phoenix early on was a great example of a team. Obviously they got Devin Booker, and Dillon Brooks has turned into more of a scorer than I think a lot of people thought. But how you play as a team, and if you connect the dots, those guys are greater than the sum of their parts. At least early on in the season, I haven't seen them in a couple of months now, but that's what you're trying to get to. And some of these lesser teams that have gone with maybe they don't have the superstar, and they've got to play that way. It's almost a better philosophy to have, because I think that's how you win basketball games. And the really great teams like OKC, you're somehow able to still have Shea, who's going to might be the MVP again, do what he does, and yet still it doesn't seem to affect the rest of the team. Like, he's able to get his points. He's able to kind of balance those two things in a way that don't alienate his teammates. And as goofy as their post-game celebrations are and stuff, all huddling around the interview, there is a teamwork. There's a bond there. There's a chemistry that you can see with that team, and I think that means a lot.
What do you remember from, because I could tell you from a Laker perspective, but I'd love to hear it from your perspective. What stands out to you last playoff run against, Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves? Because I'll tell you, here's what most Laker fans are saying, even in the chat this morning. It's like, look, let's say they beat Minnesota tonight. Everybody's still going to say, yeah, well, what does it really matter? Let's say the Lakers get the number 3 seed. Yeah, but they had the number 3 seed last year and they were out in 5 games. Let's say the Lakers close out the regular season really, really strong. Yeah, but why would it be any different? What are some of the things that, and by the way, they're not wrong. I completely get that until you change that narrative or that story is different.
You have to go prove it.
What are some of the things that you remember most in that very quick playoff series, Lakers and Timberwolves last year?
Well, the first thing that stood out was how big the spotlight is in LA. Like, playing the Lakers in the first round. Like, the prior 3 years, the Wolves had made the postseason, but it was a lot of matchups against Memphis, Denver, even get to the West Finals against Dallas. When you play the Lakers, you're playing one of the marquee franchises in the NBA. And whether you love the Lakers or hate the Lakers, that's a fact. The Celtics are there, the Lakers are there. The Bulls are there. The Knicks are there. Those are big market, big time teams. And I just remember the spotlight being like, holy cow, this is a first round series. This is bigger than the Western Conference Finals we had the prior year. So that stood out right away. But what stood out right away, I think, was just, I just think that was a great matchup for Minnesota. And you could see some real holes and a lack of depth issue for the Lakers. And what will always stand out to me is in Game 4 when JJ decided not to make a substitution in the second half. Like, just that was crazy. Like, you noticed it kind of at the end, towards the end of the third. It's like, okay, they haven't made any subs yet, and like that's the plot just thickens as we go to the fourth, and the Lakers start to fall apart in the fourth quarter because they have, they've been running on fumes.
Guys are tired.
Yeah, guys are tired. How about that? And they start missing shots. So, and I guess I can't even recall. Did the Lakers get that first game and then the Wolves won 4 straight, or to go? I can't remember who won the first game.
I'm trying to think too. Was it not Minnesota? I think Minnesota won, and then Lakers took the second game. I'll have to look too.
Maybe. Yeah, I can't.
It was quick.
Let's
put it this way. It was quick enough to where we didn't have to get to May 1st. Okay, no, Lakers won game 1. Yeah. Lakers won game 1.
No, I thought the Wolves played a really good series there, and I think they were dominant. They had advantages sort of all over the floor, and when you can live with, we play so many great players in this league. It's like Jokic. The Wolves have given up. I mean, we just played them a couple of last week in an awesome game, and you can't slow down guys like Jokic and Doncic. You just can't. Like, the Wolves are they're almost, I won't say they've given up trying to defend them, but Jokic had like 4 straight double-doubles against the Wolves, and one of them was a 60-point triple-double. The other one was like a 55-point triple. I mean, it's just unbelievable numbers. But they've now been enough of these battles and wars where they realize it's okay. We can survive if one guy is going off, but the rest of the guys don't get off. And so I think the same philosophy with Luka. They can live with a 40-point Luka game, but like you mentioned, if he's not getting everybody else involved, and Austin Reaves isn't, putting up big numbers, then you're going to be in good shape.
All right, I got official here. Wolves won game 1, and then Lakers won game 2, and then Wolves obviously took 3 straight after that. Yeah, I figured. I don't remember them losing 4 in a row. How's Jaden McDaniels been this season? I feel like every time the Lakers play him, a nice player, one of the more underrated players in the league, certainly has a nice role for Minnesota. And listen, I get it. Anthony Edwards, obviously, that's the absolute man for the Timberwolves. But I think, as you were mentioning a little bit earlier, you need a lot of guys to step up. How's he done this year?
Yeah, he's really intriguing, Alan. He's a guy who's been with the Wolves as long as Ant has. They came in the same draft together.
Oh, wow.
And so Jaden has the assignment of guarding the best player on the other team every single night. So he's got that top matchup. He's always kind of led with his defense. That's what his calling card is. That's what his job is. And then through the 6 years that he's been here, he's just kind of added to his game and found ways to have, especially when a guy is out or maybe 2 guys are out, he's been able to kind of find his way into more shots. And he's a really good shooter. He's got tremendous height. So he's a 6'9", but with his length in the paint, he loves to drive in. He'll use the Euro step. He'll decelerate. He'll pump fake. And he realizes that he can get his shot off of almost everybody in this league, save for maybe the Holmgrens and Wembys of the world. And he's gotten his scoring up. Like, he's one of 9 guys who average 15 points a game, but then is also averaging over a steal and a block per game. That's something I love, that steal and block. If you can get up over 1 per game in both those categories, you really put yourself at an elite level in this league. And he's starting to do that. He's being more consistent with his scoring. It's still a work in progress because he'll have some 4 or 5 game stretches where he's averaging 20 a game, shooting 65%, knocking down. He's one of the better 3-point shooters percentage-wise in the league. Corner threes, catch and shoots, all those shots you need a good wing player to be good at. But consistency is the biggest thing for him because he'll follow that up with a 2 or 3 game stretch where he'll only get 10 shots in 4 games. And, he kind of disappears on the floor. And that's partly sort of the inner battle that the Timberwolves have, is making sure Dante DiVincenzo gets his shots. He's such a good 3-point shooter. Why would you want him only shooting 3 or 4 or 5 times a game? You need him up to be 8, 9, 10 times a game to take advantage of what he does best. Jaden needs shots too. And sometimes the Wolves get away from getting those guys involved, probably as much as they should be.
All right, 2 more questions for you, and we'll let you go. And I appreciate the time, Horton, as always. What's your perception on the Lakers right now? I love always trying to get somebody who's not watching the team on a night in, night out basis. But, obviously you're looking at the Western Conference. You're seeing how the Lakers stack up against some of these other teams. What's kind of your perception so far this year?
It's tough because we haven't seen you guys since the opening 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, early.
Game number 2, and then the following week at Minnesota. Lakers won both of those. The clutch time numbers are just ridiculous for LA.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lakers are 5 games ahead of where they should be when you look at expected win-loss based off of the numbers the Lakers have put up this year, and that's because of their clutch time play. It's abnormally high. They've been really good in that category, although it's come back to earth a little bit, right? Weren't you guys 13-0 and now 4-6, I think, in the last 10 games, something like that. But I guess my thought was there weren't a lot of changes, I felt like, from last year for the Lakers. And I still think I still don't think once you get to the postseason, the roster construction is built around Luka the way it ideally should be to make a deep playoff run. I think you're going to get through the regular season, and who knows who that first round matchup will be. I don't know if the Lakers get out of the first round again. So it's hard.
It's fair, by the way, that's very fair, because I think let's pretend it's Lakers and the Timberwolves again in the first round, which it very well can be.
Right.
I don't know how many people are saying, oh, well, this is a great matchup for the Lakers. And by the way, you could say that. I mean, if Lakers got Denver in the first round,
yeah,
that's not good. Houston's the only one I feel like I can't figure out the Rockets. Can they be dangerous in the playoffs? It doesn't seem like they can be, but I don't think you're wrong with your assessment of, Lakers maybe at best win a round.
And that's what the underrated thing about the trade from Dallas for Luka from Dallas to LA is that, Dallas worked so hard for so many years to build the right roster around Luka, right? And they finally did. I mean, they did a really good job. They got out of the West. They got to the NBA Finals.
Sure.
They had their bigs in Gafford and Lively. They had wings like PJ Washington.
Oh, yeah.
They had a great second fiddle, if you want to call Kyrie that. I'm not sure what category you put him in. But he when you needed him, just electric. And obviously he's not healthy, so that changes that equation. But and it's a no-brainer for the Lakers to pick up Luka because he's such an incredible talent. He's still so young. And for the most part, let's see, he's played in, I looked this up the other night, he's played in 81% of your games so far. So that's a really good sign. And when he plays, you're going to win a lot of games. But I just don't feel like the roster around him is much different from last year. I don't consider DeAndre Ayton much of an improvement from I can't even remember who you had at center last year starting games.
Yeah, technically, I mean, when they wanted to use him, Jackson Hayes. I guess
Jackson Hayes was. Yeah, that was one of the problems.
They went small. They had Dorian Finney-Smith. They had so it was. Yeah,
and the Wolves have size. They've got options. They've got Naz Reid coming off the bench, who would start for most teams. So they've got Naz Reid, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert, who's back to having a big time year, despite what Shaq may think about Rudy. It's so funny how every month or so you get a Shaq comment just degrading Rudy Gobert for no reason. I'm not sure why there's the hatred out there for Rudy. All this guy does is play hard. He drives winning. He drives a top 10 defense. He drives shot deterrence, and he drives shots getting rejected at the rim. I don't know why you wouldn't want to have someone like that on your team. It's baffling to me that the heat that he picks up, whether it was all the way back 2 years ago in the Western Conference Finals when the TNT decided to put Draymond Green on the Western Conference Finals broadcast, and he's literally just dumping on Rudy and saying he sucks. He said he sucks on the air. It's just embarrassing.
Well, anyway. I'll say this real quick because I think you're 100% right. I think there's always slander that goes towards Gobert. Who do they think he is? The guy he has a role. If you want Rudy Gobert to be this Hakeem Olajuwon, I don't know what you want to be. He has a specific role. Yes. And it ain't an offensive player where he's facing the basket.
He's never going to average 20 points a game. It's not happening.
It's not his role.
That's not his role. It's not what he's asked to do.
Now, exactly. I think where some of you tell me if I'm right here, I think some of the slander came with him. I felt like I saw it the most when towards the end of games, they would either sub him out because I'll just use as an example, Luka having those moments, those ISO moments against Rudy Gobert. Well, tell me what center can guard Luka Doncic 23 feet away from the basket. for Draymond Green, yes, but that's kind of your role. You're not 7 foot something, but I'm with you on that. I don't blame you for protecting him.
And I think that's one of the big changes in the NBA is going to Amazon and NBC has been so refreshing because I think they talk basketball more than TNT and ESPN did. And I think that TNT show it's obviously a Hall of Fame show. We all know it. But it's also, I think, run its course. And you can put, so he got roasted. Rudy did one time for a particular game against Jokic, and Jokic was putting up big numbers. Guess what? Jokic, that's what he does. He does it against everybody in the league. And rather than celebrating how good Jokic is and breaking down his game, they focused on all the things Rudy did wrong. Same thing against Luka, against Dallas in the famous end of game, whatever that was in the Western Conference Finals, where he isolates Rudy and gets the shot. Look, he's toasting and roasting anybody in that situation. There's, rather than celebrate Luka, all they did was point out the fact that Rudy comes out and awkwardly tries to defend the shot. I mean, it's just like I'd rather celebrate the game than denigrate and celebrate somebody's greatness. Luka's incredible. Jokic is incredible. Let's talk about how great they are and maybe not denigrate the fact that not just Rudy, but nobody's going to guard that shot consistently well. I don't get that part.
It's a fair assessment. Okay, final one I got for you here, and we'll let you go. Just the West in general. If you want to make a prediction, you can. You don't. Just as you look at the Western Conference, does it just feel like this should be the Spurs and the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, and it would be a surprise if that's not the matchup? Or do you feel like, all right, it won't go chalk? There are teams out there that could take out either the Spurs or the Thunder. It's
that's a great question.
Yeah.
Because those two are playing so well right now, and we kind of do know the sides of the bracket. OKC will be on one. There's a 3-game gap to celebrate between the two right now. So they're probably going to finish 1-2 like that. There's too much of a gap from 3 to 2 to catch.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think anybody catches them. So I think
there's not enough time. 1-2. Wolves have 18 games left. There's 6 games back or something like that. Maybe 6.5 now. So, so someone's going to have to knock off OKC or San Antonio. And I would say that the odds are that you're not going to knock off those two, the way they've been playing. Yeah. So it would be a surprise if the Wolves were able to get to Western Conference Finals for the 3rd straight year. That's going to be a big battle. Even though they've had success against OKC, that was a one-sided series last year in the Western Conference Finals. The way San Antonio's playing right now, it's just, man, they jumped up way too quick. I agree. I was ready for Wemby to dominate the league, but not quite yet. And this is this is just going to be. Sometimes it's daunting to be like, okay, the rest of the league, what are we going to do for the next 5 years? It's going to be the Thunder and Spurs in the West. We have no chance. But that's why you play the games. I mean, that's why you never know what's going to happen. But I do think those two are the favorites. So yes, I don't think you can. If you're making a pick for other than OKC and San Antonio in the West Finals, then you're choosing an underdog, and whoever it might be to come up, whether it's Houston, whether it's the Lakers, whether it's the Wolves, even if it's Denver. I think you can make a good run in a series, but I think you'd have to favor those two teams.
Horton, thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate the insight. I know you got a busy couple of days, so thank you for doing this.
You got it, man. Anytime. See you.
All right. That's Alan Horton right there. Great stuff from him. Horton obviously doing the play-by-play of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and somebody that I've known for a number of years. So we got ties all the way back down to San Diego, him and I. Okay, good stuff from Alan Horton. Let's get a couple of comments in here, and then I want to hit on a few different things here before we call it a day. It is kind of, it's interesting what he's saying about Rudy Gobert. I've always kind of asked the same question. I'm like, why does this guy get demolished on every, he's such a target for people to go after? And genuinely, I don't know. So I'm not going to sit here and make assumptions. But Horton having enough of it. That's enough, he says. Okay, let's take a look at a few of the comments here, and we'll keep things going here. If Lakers' effort and energy is good tonight, chances of winning are good. It's a great test. Listen, I'm down to see all this. I want to see some of these tests for the Lakers. Looking at the playoff bracket, we have 0 chance in the first round. Why not experiment benching LeBron? He is leaving anyways. I don't think they have 0 shot in the playoffs in the first round. Why 0 shot? Tell me Tell me who you're sold on. Are you sold on the Houston Rockets that continue to show they're all over the place? Are you sold on, I mean, really, to be honest with you, Rockets is probably the best matchup for the Lakers, and that's not even a great matchup. But I don't think there's any locks here. I really don't. I don't think there's a lock for any of these teams. And maybe you say Lakers are the worst of those four between Denver, Minnesota, Houston, and the Lakers. I'm okay with that. I'm maybe what you want to say is they're going to be an underdog in any first round matchup, but there's no guarantee. None of these teams have shown you they're all over the place 3-6, all over the place. None of these teams have shown consistency. None of these teams have shown that they're a team that you could depend on. But I will say they have higher ceilings than the Lakers. That part I will give you. I do agree that they have higher ceilings than the Lakers. Shout out to Harrah Resort SoCal, located in North San Diego. They're about 1 to 2 hours of wherever you are in Southern California. So if you're out in SoCal, LA, Orange County, San Diego, they're located in the Palomar Mountains. Really, really beautiful resort. I keep trying to tell everybody, and hopefully people understand that when I say this is a great option for a staycation, the idea is you can get in your car, you could be there within an hour or 2 hours. You got a phenomenal place that has great restaurants, has entertainment, has a swim-up bar and a lazy river. I mean, they got it all there at Harrah Resort SoCal, and it's just a lot smarter where you don't have to go book round-trip airfare tickets, and then you got to leave your car there, and you got to go rent a car. I mean, the costs of just getting to the location you want to get to, don't do it. Go to Harrah Resort SoCal. If you click on the link in this description, it says Harrah Resort 20% off. Click on that link. You'll get 20% off when you book. There are some restrictions apply, but predominantly you could book something during the week and get 20% off. So if you are interested in Harrah Resort SoCal, that's the best way to do it. Shout out to Harrah Resort SoCal for being one of our partners. Okay, let's keep rolling here. I know we got some people that want to chime in. I'll take a look at some of these comments here before we wrap up the show. But I do have a couple other topics that I want to get into here real quick before we call it a day. So let's keep going here. Not even really call it a day because obviously Lakers got a game against Minnesota tonight. So still a lot going on. I'm going to read a quote here from Nikola Jokic. All right, people are going to look here and they're going to say, why does Alan have Nikola Jokic and the Lakers on there? Here's what Nikola Jokic said. He was doing a podcast, doing an interview. I'm going to read this quote here. He said, this is Jokic shutting down the idea of playing with Luka Doncic. Even if we never win anything else after this, an organic title, it means more to me than anything. I really found peace here. My 2 kids were born here. Everyone's here. Peace, home. I found my life here, and I like life here. I don't feel the need. I don't have the urge to. We built something here together as a team. He's talking about potentially playing with Luka Doncic. There's a big difference, I think, between Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Nikola Jokic has never given a signal that he wants out of Denver. Giannis gives a signal every other day. There's another difference here. Nikola Jokic, he has a team and a roster where at least he feels if they're healthy and they go on a heater, they can get back to the NBA Finals. They could at least get to the Western Conference Finals. The Milwaukee Bucks, there's no guarantee they're going to play in the first round of the playoffs. It's a big difference between the two players. But that's Nikola Jokic talking a little bit about the idea or the concept of, you know, like I mentioned, playing with Luka Doncic. Doesn't that sound like that's going to happen? Dillon Brooks had an interesting see if I could find this here. Where did we put this here? Where did we put this? Dillon Brooks had a interesting conversation with a couple of guys on a podcast. See if I can find it here in my notes here. Try to find this on the fly. Had an interesting conversation. I thought it was actually a really, really funny conversation. So Dillon Brooks he's obviously out right now, not available, and that's a big, big reason why all of a sudden it just doesn't feel like the Phoenix Suns are going to be in the mix here, because I think it's a broken left hand, I want to say. The guy is trying to compare himself to the other top 50 players in the NBA, and I think he was listed at number 48. NBA players ranked above him in the top 50. And every time they go through a player, he gives his opinion. So they mentioned Joel Embiid. He goes, no, he's too hurt. You can probably go to sleep for a straight week, and he's probably hurt again. Okay, you guys can see the tweet here. There's his conversation about Joel Embiid. Austin Reaves, he says, nope, he's a foul baiter, basically saying he's better than Austin Reaves. Julius Randle talks about he's one of the biggest complainers. He wants all the calls because he plays the most physical. Zion Wilson and Giannis play so physical, so he's kind of talking about both of them. Paulo Banchero, down year for Paulo. LeBron James, he ain't having a better year than me. I mean, the guy goes after everybody. Is there a player in the NBA that has created more of a target on his back than Dillon Brooks? I kind of like it. I kind of like that confidence that he has in himself. What's another one that he said? He said Michael Porter Jr., he gave him credit. He's having a good year. Spoke highly about Amen Thompson. Trey Murphy, I can't support losing. So no, but he's having a great year. De'Aaron Fox, nah, Fox ain't having a better year than me. Goes after everybody. Goes after everybody. Chet Holmgren better than you? No. Scotty Barnes? No. Dillon Brooks is freaking hilarious. And the thing that I think stands out to me most is he genuinely believes everything he says. So I don't think this is for clicks or any of that stuff. I think he genuinely believes it. All right. Last couple of things around the NBA, and then we're going to call it a day. Yesterday, the Thunder beat the Denver Nuggets 129-126. SGA hits a couple threes in a row, but hits an absolute dagger with 3.3 seconds left. Nikola Jokic, or no, let me get this stat in here. So SGA ties Wilt Chamberlain for most consecutive games with at least 20-plus point games with 126 straight games. SGA has kind of gone under the radar this year. Still doing special things. Yesterday, 35 points, 9 rebounds, 15 assists for SGA. And it feels like it's just we're just waiting to have a matchup between the San Antonio Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder, but pretty special game if you were watching that game yesterday. And actually it plays to the Lakers' advantage that Denver ended up losing that game. NBA has canceled the Atlanta Hawks' planned Magic City game promotion on March 18th. Yeah, can I ask everybody a quick question? Why did they feel like this was going to actually get through? And I'm surprised the NBA allowed it to get even this close. I'm gonna say this. I'm not shocked that the NBA decided they don't want to have a Magic City game promotion in Atlanta. I don't think I'm overly surprised about this. Was it Cornette that put out that maybe if Cornette doesn't make a big deal about it and say that why are they doing this and this is not the right representation of the NBA and everything else, maybe the NBA allows it. But yesterday, seeing that the game is canceled, or not the game is canceled, but that promotion is canceled, let's just say I wasn't too shocked about that. All right, let's get a couple comments in, last couple of comments, and then we're going to call it a day. NBA hating Magic City Mondays are legendary. Are you really, really surprised? Really, really surprised that's not happening? I don't think I'm surprised. Great guest. Thank you. Yes, Alan Horton is phenomenal. Great insight. Lakers and the Timberwolves. So you got to have a Wolves guy on that could break it down like that. Dillon is a guy you hate on the other team, but love him on your team. I will say this. I do feel like there is... I mentioned Dillon Brooks a little bit earlier. I think there's a lot more people that actually like Dillon Brooks than that. I feel like the tide is churning a little bit in Dillon Brooks. I feel like there's a lot more people that got something to say. Dillon would be perfect for the Lakers without LeBron. I don't disagree with that. Dillon Brooks, he's not going to become a Laker because the Phoenix Suns got the perfect guy that they're building around. So we'll see what happens. Spurs, better than OKC, in my opinion. And another one here, Spurs is a major problem. All right, tonight, Lakers got the Minnesota Timberwolves late tip-off, 8 o'clock, so right after the game. Honestly, probably not starting post-game till 10:45, something like that. Usually my post-game show starts 3 hours from the time the game starts, by the time JJ Redick is done. So probably not getting on until about 11 tonight, 10:45, 11. But a fun matchup, and I'm looking forward to coming on with everybody tonight. Join me after the game. Please subscribe to the channel. Shout out to Alan Horton. Thank you to our partners, and thank you to everybody that hung out for the full $110 today of the show. Hope you guys have a great rest of your morning. I'll see you guys tonight after the Lakers take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Have a great rest of your morning.